David versus Goliath story, where David actually wins.
Mm.
Well, today's deep dive is about exactly that.
Oh.
A real estate company, St. Francis Square Realty Corporation,
Okay.
that managed to take on a China banking corporation
Wow.
and came out on top.
Really?
We're unpacking a landmark Supreme Court case
Huh?
with huge implications for anyone who's ever felt like the little guy gets the short end of the stick when dealing with big institutions.
It's a case that really highlights how rehabilitation proceedings
Oh, yeah.
can level the playing field,
Uh-huh.
even if it means big creditors have to make some concessions.
Okay, so picture this. It's the late 90s.
All right.
The Asian financial crisis is hitting businesses hard.
Yeah.
And St. Francis finds itself drowning in debt.
Mhm.
A whopping P300,000.000 owed to China Banking Corporation.
Oh.
To secure the loan, they'd put up 3 properties as collateral.
Okay.
A condo project in the posh Makati city,
Oh, wow.
a house and lot in Bel Air, and another building and lot in Caloocan City.
Okay.
You with me so far?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This case, China Banking Corporation versus St. Francis Square Realty Corporation, GR
Yeah.
name 190433,
Okay.
decided on April 26th, 2017.
Got it.
Perfectly illustrates the tension between the interests of creditors who want their money back
Okay.
and the goal of rehabilitation proceedings, which is to give struggling companies a chance to restructure and contribute to the economy.
Right. It's not just about collecting debt.
Right.
It's about the bigger picture.
Exactly.
So, St. Francis, desperate for a lifeline,
Okay.
files for rehabilitation with the SEC. A stay order is issued,
Yeah.
which essentially hits the pause button on all their debt obligations,
Yeah.
including the interest payments on those loans.
Right.
Now, St. Francis argued,
Right.
hey, we can't pay interest because of this stay order.
Mm-hmm.
China Bank, on the other hand,
Yeah.
insisted that the rehabilitation plan specifically allowed for interest to accrue. It's already a clash of interpretations right from the start.
What's fascinating here is that the approved rehabilitation plan actually gave creditors 2 choices.
Okay.
The first was dación non pago,
Okay.
basically handing over the collateral to wipe out the debt,
Oh,
with all penalties waived.
gotcha.
The second option was a settlement without any interest, penalties, or charges
Okay.
tacked on after that stay order came into effect.
Hold on. So China Bank could have just taken the collateral up front and been done with it,
Yeah,
but they chose not to.
they did.
Why?
Perhaps they were banking on those interest payments adding up over time.
Oh, I see.
However, there was a catch.
Oh,
The Supreme Court had previously ruled that if a creditor rejects dación pago,
okay.
the second option, the one with no interest,
Uh-huh.
automatically kicks in.
That's a pretty big gamble.
It is.
So were they just not aware of this prior ruling?
It's hard to say for sure,
Okay.
but it certainly highlights the importance of carefully considering all the options and potential outcomes in these situations.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so China Bank rejects the dación non pago.
Mhm.
The case goes to the Special Hearing Panel, or SHP, within the SEC,
Okay.
and they bring in appraisers to assess the situation.
Uh-huh.
And here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Remember those 3 properties St. Francis put up as collateral?
Yes.
Well, it turns out, due to market fluctuations,
Yeah.
they're now worth significantly more
Wow.
than the original loan amount. The properties were over-collateralized,
Okay.
meaning their value exceeded the debt owed.
You know how even if you've paid off most of your mortgage,
Uh-huh.
the bank still technically owns your house?
Yeah.
That's the indivisibility of mortgages principle
Oh, I see.
that China Bank was arguing.
Okay.
They claimed that until the entire debt was paid, they had a right to hold on to all the properties.
So even though the collateral was worth more,
Right.
China Bank was basically saying, we're not letting go until we get every penny plus interest.
Exactly.
Seems a bit harsh when the whole point of rehabilitation is to give a company a chance to recover, right?
Right, and the SHP saw it that way too.
Okay.
They ruled that China Bank had to release the properties,
Yeah.
cancel the mortgages,
Wow.
and just accept whatever they got from the sale as payment
Really?
with no added interest.
So they're basically saying, you had your chance to take the whole pie, but now you only get a slice.
Exactly.
Wait, the SHP could actually force China Bank to do that.
That's the power of the cram-down provision in rehabilitation proceedings.
Good.
Imagine you're in a group project, and one person wants to do things their way.
Okay.
even if it hurts the overall project.
Yeah.
The cram down is like the teacher stepping in and saying, nope, you're sticking to the plan that benefits the whole group,
Right.
even if one person isn't happy about it.
That makes a lot more sense than that pizza analogy I've heard before.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, so China Bank is understandably not thrilled with this outcome.
I can imagine.
They decide to fight back, arguing about the indivisibility of mortgages and challenging the SHP's authority to make such a ruling.
And so begins a legal roller coaster ride.
Oh, boy.
As the case makes its way through the Philippine court system.
This is getting good.
Yeah.
So where did this legal battle go next? All right, so we've got China Bank reeling from the SHP's decision.
Yeah.
They're not going to take this lying down right.
Nope.
Where do they take their fight next?
First, stop the SEC on bank.
Okay.
They're hoping to get a different outcome from a higher authority within the SEC.
Makes sense.
And this is where the case gets even more intriguing.
Ooh, tell me more.
The SEC on bank agreed with the SHP.
Okay.
The loans were indeed over-collateralized, meaning those 3 properties were worth more than the outstanding debt.
So they're on the same page as the SHP.
Yeah.
Does that mean China Bank is out of luck?
Not so fast.
Oh.
While they agreed on the over-collateralized part,
Okay.
they didn't want to completely release all 3 properties.
Oh.
They decided that the Bel Air and Caloocan properties could be sold off.
Right.
But the Legazpi property, that fancy condo project in Makati,
Right.
had to be transferred to an asset pool to benefit all of St. Francis's creditors,
I see.
as stipulated in the rehabilitation plan.
Interesting.
And,
So they're trying to find a middle ground here.
right.
Release some of the properties, but hold on to the most valuable one
Exactly.
to ensure all creditors get a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing China Bank wasn't thrilled about this compromise either.
You guessed right.
Okay.
They felt that since they rejected the dacian pago, they were entitled to hold on to all the properties until the entire debt was settled,
Right.
regardless of their increased value.
Hmm.
They weren't backing down.
This is like a legal tug of war.
It is.
So what happens next?
Well.
Do they take this to an even higher court?
Oh, wow.
China Bank files a petition for certiorari with the Court of Appeals,
Okay.
arguing that the SEC on bank overstepped their authority by messing with the indivisibility of mortgages.
Uh-huh.
They're essentially saying, hey, you can't just change the rules of the game.
Okay, so now we're at the Court of Appeals.
Yeah.
This is getting pretty serious.
It is.
What was their take on the whole situation?
This is where the case takes a dramatic turn.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
The Court of Appeals sided with St. Francis
Okay.
and fully affirmed the SEC's decision to prevent China Bank from piling on additional interest and penalties
All right.
after that stay order went into effect.
Gotcha.
But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
They went a step further than the SEC on bank and said,
Okay.
nope, release all 3 properties,
Whoa.
including the Legazpi condo project.
They completely overturned the SEC on bank's attempt to hold on to that prime piece of real estate.
They did.
That's a huge win for St. Francis.
It is.
What was their reasoning behind this decision? The Court of Appeals emphasized that the approved rehabilitation plan was the guiding document in this case.
Okay.
They pointed out that by initially rejecting the dacian on pago,
Uh-huh.
China Bank automatically triggered that second option in the plan.
Right.
The one that excluded any additional interest or charges after the stay order.
So it's like the Court of Appeals is saying,
Yeah.
you snooze, you lose.
Exactly.
You had your chance,
Yeah.
and now you have to stick to the agreed-upon rules. It's all about following the playbook, right?
It is.
But I have a feeling China Bank isn't going to throw in the towel just yet.
I want
Did they accept this decision or take it even higher?
You know, it wouldn't end here.
Oh, of course not.
This case is headed for the highest court in the land.
Dun, dun, dun. The
Yeah.
Supreme Court.
Talk about high stakes.
Absolutely.
So what happened when this David versus Goliath battle reached the Supreme Court?
Well,
Did they finally settle this legal tug of war once and for all? So here we are at the final showdown.
China Bank, after multiple setbacks, is taking their case to the Supreme Court.
Right.
You could cut the tension with a knife.
I bet.
Did the highest court in the land vindicate China Bank,
Whoa.
or did they uphold the previous rulings?
In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court sided with St. Francis.
Wow.
They affirmed the Court of Appeals decision and
Right.
said,
Okay.
yes, release all 3 properties.
So they agreed with the lower courts.
They did. It was a resounding victory for St. Francis.
So in the end, David really did beat Goliath.
You could say that.
That's amazing.
It is.
But okay, hold on. You're saying that even though those properties are now worth way more than the original debt, China Bank is basically out of luck.
Yeah.
They don't get any of that extra value, no interest, nothing.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
And it all boils down to that initial decision by China Bank to reject the documents on Pago.
Right.
The Supreme Court pointed out that the approved rehabilitation plan was binding on all parties.
Okay.
By rejecting that first option. They automatically triggered the second option, which waived any additional interest and charges.
It's a tough lesson in choose wisely, isn't it?
It is.
But you mentioned this was a landmark decision.
Right.
What makes this case so significant? Is it just about this one real estate company and one bank?
No.
Or does it have broader implications?
This case goes far beyond just these two parties.
Okay.
It sets a precedent for future rehabilitation cases.
I see.
And reinforces the concept of cram down.
Okay.
The court's ability to enforce a plan that might not please every creditor,
Right.
but is deemed to be in the best interest of the overall economy.
So it's like the court is saying, look, we get it, you want your money, but sometimes we have to prioritize the bigger picture.
Right.
Even if it means some individual creditors might not get everything they were hoping for.
Exactly.
But doesn't that create a potential for companies to take advantage of the system?
It's possible.
Couldn't businesses that aren't really struggling try to use rehabilitation to get out of paying their debts?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's something legal experts are debating right now.
Okay.
There's always a risk that any legal tool can be misused. But on the flip side, this ruling could be a lifeline for companies genuinely facing financial hardship.
Right.
Giving them a real chance to restructure and get back on their feet.
So it's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
The courts are trying to encourage economic recovery while also preventing abuse of the system.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
And this case highlights the importance of having clear and unambiguous language in rehabilitation plans.
Oh.
Remember how China Bank argued that those two options weren't really binding?
Yeah.
The Supreme Court shut that argument down, emphasizing that an approved rehabilitation plan is a legally binding document.
It's like signing a contract, right?
Exactly.
You can't just go back and renegotiate the terms later.
Right.
Just because you're not happy with the outcome.
It's too late at that point.
Exactly.
So this case is a wake-up call for both debtors and creditors.
Okay, I see that.
Debtors need to understand the implications of the rehabilitation process and make sure their plans are carefully crafted. And creditors need to be aware of the potential consequences of rejecting certain options offered in those plans.
It's like a game of chess.
It is.
You got to think several moves ahead.
You do.
Wow, this case has been a wild ride.
It has.
We've gone from a struggling real estate company to a high-stakes legal battle that ended up at the Supreme Court.
At the highest court in the land.
What are your final thoughts for our listeners who might be thinking, okay, that was fascinating.
Yeah.
But what does this all mean for me?
I think the key takeaway is that this case underscores the power of rehabilitation proceedings.
Okay.
It's not just a way to delay the inevitable.
Right.
It can be a powerful tool for businesses to get a fresh start. But this case also serves as a stark reminder that in the realm of law, words matter.
Yes, definitely.
Every clause, every detail can have significant consequences.
It's a reminder to read the fine print.
It is.
Whether it's a contract, a rehabilitation plan, or even the terms and conditions of your favorite app.
Right.
And it's a reminder that the law is constantly evolving.
Yes.
And there's always something new to learn.
Absolutely.
This case has certainly given us all a lot to think about.
It has.
Well said. A huge thanks to our expert for guiding us through this fascinating deep dive into the world of Philippine law.
You're welcome.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We hope you've learned something new, gained a new perspective, and maybe even found yourself questioning some assumptions along the way.
I hope so.
Don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more thought-provoking explorations of complex topics, legal battles, and everything in between.
And leave us a comment.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.